Now, the Davenport building collapse is raising questions on the layout of its ownership and how liable companies or individuals could be in a lawsuit. News 8's Jonathan Fong is live in downtown Davenport. Jonathan, explain to us how the collapsed building is owned.
Yeah, good evening, John. So certainly you've heard the name Andrew Wold, who's been described as the owner of the building here, the collapsed building here in downtown Davenport. Now, technically, there is a limited liability company called the Davenport Hotel LLC that owns that building, and Wold is associated with this business. He has the same kind of arrangement with other properties here in the Quad Cities area. Now, we talked with the real estate lawyer and kind of asked some questions about what an LLC is and how it plays into the real estate environment.
An LLC is like a bucket. You can put whatever you want into it, and then the bucket holds whatever is in there. It can do a variety of actions, including buying and selling property, operating a business, doing a variety of things like a person would, but it's not a person.
How is it typically used within the context of real estate?
We would typically have, at the closing of a property, or later on, maybe we would deed it over, we would have the LLC be the owner instead of a person.
So if there's a liability situation, then that avoids your personal funds from being attacked, right?
Right. If there's some kind of claim that goes beyond the assets that were owned by the business, the idea is that claim is not going to expand into the personal holdings of either the members of an LLC or the managers if there's some sort of liability established to them.
David also says in this kind of situation, it's unlikely owners and investors will have to pay for any claims.
So typically, we're going to see that the claims are limited both to the insurance that's carried and the value of the assets. And when we look at the value of the assets, it's going to be both the land that's underneath as well as the building, and not necessarily both, depending on how they structured that ownership.
And he says the building insurance could help pay for those claims.
We don't know what the coverage is on this particular building or on the land or how it's structured. Typically, the liability limits for this kind of commercial property would be at a minimum many, many millions of dollars.
Now, I did ask David if that shield of limited liability could be pierced and if the owner of a property like this could be held personally liable for claims and damages. David did say that it is possible, but it's unlikely. It would take what he describes as proven egregious acts, such as multiple instances of fraud or blatant disregard for safety on the owner's part. For now in Davenport, Jonathan Fong, WQ80 News 8.
Right, Jonathan, thank you. And David says it could take years to resolve claims over the collapsed building, as it takes time to handle payouts, liquidate assets, and determine what entities are responsible. A resident of the collapsed building is now suing the city of Davenport and the building's current owner. The suit alleges both the city and the owner knew about the unsafe conditions of the building and failed to warn residents. The resident retained the same law firm that represented residents of the Surfside condominium collapse that happened 2 years ago in Florida. This lawsuit says more lawsuits are likely.